All right. Hello again, everybody. Let's see how we're doing today. I ended up not getting that microphone just yet, but that's all right. Okay, I see my stream preview is live, so that means all I have to do now is go give you guys the link, and then once that happens, we'll get started with the actual business. Except, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to give this a new title. Well, la-di-da-di-da. Uh, Chapter 1 and speeches of intro uploading. And this description will be, we go over a little bit of Chapter 1 and how to upload your speech of introduction. Okay. I only wasted a minute with that. Okay, let's get you all the link. I do want to stay on the page actually. Okay, I might end up needing to redo this. Now, why isn't it showing me my? There we go. Yeah, why isn't it? Doop. Okay, keep that over there. Let's post this in the announcement section. I can broadcast live. I know you can hear all my clickety clacks on the keys. Okay, make sure this is sent as an email to everyone. I suppose alternatively, you could subscribe to the YouTube channel for the course. And okay. I'm so excited. What the heck was that? Some kind of error message just came across my screen. And I was too busy typing, so I hit a shortcut, I guess, to dismiss it because it popped up and then went away. Okay. All right. Well, here we are. Let's get down to business, shall we? So I think the first thing that we're going to do today is we're going to um, go over some parts of Chapter 1, at least some of the basics, so that some of us who maybe don't have the textbook, can at least get started on answering the assignment, which I'll also go over in this video. So without further ado, let's open up that PowerPoint and get the slideshow started, and I'll transition the view here away from Charlie Cardinal here in a second. If we want to start this presentation from the beginning, we want to swap these two views around. And there we go. All right, let's make sure that our video is, there we are. There we have it. All right, so Chapter 1 is mostly about the human communication process. It talks about a couple theories about how humans communicate, what role language has in that process, and really the model that we're going to subscribe to is called the SMCR model. But before we even get into that, let's see, there you go with that error message again. Before we even get into that, let's kind of take a moment to think about what communication is. Um, so, of all these things on the slideshow here, we have some things that may or may not count as communication, and I'll take a pause for a beat, even if you're watching this a bit later, and see, a la what is it? What's that show? Dora the Explorer, and see if you can guess which one is communication. A girl bats her eyes at a frat boy from across the room. Barack Obama gives an address about universal health care. A student slouches in his chair during class. And of course, a child watches a program about prehistoric giant whales. So which one of those would count as communication in your mind? And the right answer, Boots, is all of them. All of these are communication or instances of communication. Um, the critical thing about communication is that it is a continuous and ever-changing process of interaction. Um, so it really doesn't, communication doesn't really need a whole lot more than that to be classified as communication. If it is some kind of interaction, um, there you go. It's communication. It doesn't matter if you if the communication gets to its intended audience or not. Just the fact that interaction was occurring or trying to occur is enough to classify something as communication. So it doesn't even matter if the communication is intentional. For example, that example with the um, girl batting her eyes at the frat boy from across the room. Sometimes people aren't aware of those kinds of behaviors. Communicating interest, but maybe the girl wasn't aware that she was broadcasting that kind of signal. It was just something that's ingrained to her in her from the culture and from some kind of deep-seated biological process, and that with the way that makes humans kind of communicate with their nonverbals. So communication is really just any kind of process of interaction. All right, so let's go ahead and look at that anatomy of interaction for a moment. Now, this is called the SMCR model because each one of these letters, S, M, C, and R, it's kind of a mnemonic device for you so you can kind of remember what these are. So, in any kind of interaction, there is a source, which is the composer of a message. Um, the next part of the communication is, or the interaction is the message, which is defined as a discrete chunk of communication. An article, a song. A lot of students might get this mixed up with the main idea behind the communication, and it's not. A message is a discrete chunk of that interaction. Okay, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it encompasses everything that was part of that interaction. So um, when you're giving a speech to a group, your message isn't just the words that are coming out of your mouth. It's not just the sources that you use or the thesis of your speech. It also includes your nonverbals. It includes whether or not you look at the audience, and it would include even some of the things that you neglected to say can end up conveying information as well, the things that you don't mention. And so all of that stuff is part of your message. It's not just the main idea or the thesis of your speech that is the message. It's everything that happens during that interaction. Um, the next part you need to be aware about is the channel. And the channel is the sense through which a message is accepted. For example, a newspaper's channel is through sight, and a song's channel is through hearing. All right, so that's what we mean by channel. It's not just um, Channel 4 or this YouTube channel. It's the sense through which a message is accepted. And so sometimes there are multiple channels, right? You can have a visual channel and an audio channel with which you would process a speech, for example. You can also have messages being sent through food, through tastes. Um, there's a lot of people that get homesick from mom's cookies, and when mom sends you those cookies through the mail, you can taste the the care that she took in preparing those cookies, and there is a message in that care. And the channel for that message would be your taste buds. Again, any kind of interaction between people is a form of communication. Um, and then lastly, we have a receiver, which is the audience of a message. Now notice here that it does not say the intended audience of the message. It just says the audience of a message. So if you're watching this video right now and your roommate or partner or spouse comes walking through the hallway and they hear this part of the presentation, they are also a receiver of this message, even though I did not consider them in my preparation of this video or of this broadcast at all. Um, So that's something you need to bear in mind, is that a receiver is anyone who is exposed to the interaction or any part of the message. Um, so even though you don't intend for them to receive it, people might. It's not just a a phenomenon where you send a reply all email when you just wanted to hit reply. A receiver is anyone who's exposed to any part of the message, um, which is one reason why people, especially when they're a major public speaker, will say have an interpreter for American Sign Language, because they want to make sure that anybody watching them will receive the message, not just and try to hit as many channels as possible. Real professional speakers usually have a companion that is giving sign language, for example. So again, they're in. So that's something that professional communicators would do. There's still more words here. So anatomy, and more of an anatomy of interaction here is that the idea of encoding. So this is something that a source does. Sources encode or attribute meaning to symbols or actions to convey a message. All right, and that's important for us to understand too, is because language, spoken language, which is what we're going to be utilizing mostly for the purposes of this course. The sound that you're hearing is just that. It is sound. Now I have encoded thoughts or meaning to these words, and that meaning is shared because we share a common language. Now, if you didn't speak English, all you would hear are sounds, because you are missing part of the decoding process, which is what a receiver does. It's the process of looking at symbols or actions to interpret the intended meaning from a message. Okay, um, so there's those two steps that go together. Encode is for sources, and decode is for the receiver. All right, and so if you don't speak the same language, for example, the decoding process or the encoding process is going to have errors, or it just may not happen at all. But it's important for us to understand that words are just sounds. At least in the English language, they are. Everything that's written down stands for a sound. And it's only through understanding the language do you attribute meaning, and can you get meaning from those sounds if you share the same language. So that's kind of the link between words and encoding and decoding in language. Um, you can see a linguistics class for more, but that's as deep into it as we're going to get. Just know that encoding is something that a source does to put meaning to the symbols, i.e. the words that you hear. And decoding is the process a receiver goes through to try to get that meaning from those words or symbols. Then we have another concept called noise, and it comes in two varieties, internal and external. And this is any kind of interference that you might experience as a result of trying to understand a message. Somewhere between the encoding process, the delivery, and the decoding process, there's going to be noise, and noise is ever present. And again, it comes in these two varieties. So what does that really mean? Internal noise is any kind of noise that's kind of physiological or psychological in the receiver. So, for example, if you're listening to this video during, right now it's 6:14 p.m., maybe you haven't had dinner yet, and you're thinking about what you're going to eat after this video's happened. Some rallies sounds pretty good, but maybe we can go to McDonald's instead. Then again, Taco Bell has that great new burrito thing they've got going on. And the next thing you know, the instructor's on a different slide. Right? That would be an example of internal noise. And external noise is probably more what you would associate with a conventional understanding of the word noise. External noise is anything that comes from outside your body or your mind. So like literal noise, as in your neighbor's mowing the lawn right now, and you can't really hear the audio, that is external noise. Um, so there's also, for example, if your message is a visual message, so let's say you're making a poster, um, there is a source of noise in that maybe someone viewing your poster has poor eyesight and they cannot see um, the poster very well. Even though that might be blurred vision, it is still considered noise for our purposes. Um, So that's again, noise is just any kind of interference between the message and the receiver. Excuse me. And feedback is a verbal or nonverbal reaction to a message. And one thing that you should also add to this idea is that feedback always occurs. All right, no matter what, a message is going to generate feedback. It doesn't matter if the source of that message gets the feedback or not. Um, Feedback is always occurring. And that's one of the things behind one of the other models in your textbook, the Dance's helical model, is the idea that once you start a process of interaction, there's going to be feedback, and that feedback contains messages. So then you've got the literal reply to the message plus the implied reply to your message. In other words, the nonverbal response to your message. And then you've got the reply from that, and it just kind of builds on each other until it's like this big, huge helical tornado of interaction that's occurred. It starts at a small point and gets bigger. And that's the idea of feedback as well. Um, all right, so we're not going to do this quiz because I stole this from my in-person class, but I wanted to make sure that you were exposed to the ideas so that you can do the discussion assignment, which I believe I would go over now. That sounds pretty good. Let's make sure that I still have it pulled up. I do. Excellent. Let's go ahead and pull this open. So if you'll notice in the discussion board section of the course Blackboard, I have added a new discussion forum that has a quite a lengthy description here. And you may want to make sure that I got the dates right on this, but it is my intention that by Wednesday, at the end of the day, which would be 11:59 p.m., you will use the Create a Thread button, and I'll show you that in a second. In this post or in this forum to answer the following questions. Often people describe communication as being like a tube of toothpaste. Once you squeeze some out and it's released into the world, it cannot be bottled up again. So using what you know about the communication process now, do you feel that communication is like a tube of toothpaste? Why or why not? Using what you know of the SMCR model of communication and noise, do you think it is a good idea or a bad idea for high schools or universities to schedule classes around the lunch hour? Why or why not? That's a great. I love having this discussion here. It's pretty interesting, um, and so I'm interested to hear your ideas. People do. Like I said, I actually got most of my work not in communication studies, but in educational studies. Um, and while schools themselves may never consider the ramifications of this idea, scholars do. So I'm kind of interested to see what you might think as students in a college environment or as a former high school student. What do you think about how this model of communication may or may not influence the schedule, at least in a conceptual way? Anyway, so item number 3 here is again using the SMCR model of communication. I would like for you to diagram a typical interaction you personally experience on a daily basis. Identify who or what the source is, what the message is. And again, the message is not just the main idea, it's also things like nonverbal interaction. So, maybe the glare that your spouse gives you when you eat candy from the cabinet. That's also part of the message. So don't forget, it's not just the hey, you shouldn't eat that, you're on a diet. There's also another component to it, which is the way that the person is looking at you, and anything else that might come with that. Don't forget the channels, all right? The way that you perceive the message, either visually or audio or both, or through taste or touch. And of course, receivers are who the receivers are, right? And again, consider carefully, it's not just the people who the message is intended to receive, but who might also receive the message as a result. So, an example from my life would be, well, taking candy from the cabinet. My wife says things so loudly, I'm pretty sure that the neighbors receive part of her "you're on a diet" message as well. So again, try to think about when I have this interaction on a daily basis, not just who is this intended to be received by, but who might also pick this up. And of course, along with this, It's very important to remember identify possible sources of noise that could interfere with whatever this communication example is that you're going through. Okay, so there you have it. That's part one, and that's due Wednesday, all right, this coming Wednesday, which I do believe is May 23rd. I'm bad at math, but I'm pretty sure it's May 23rd. And that's the end of the day. The second part is due on Friday. I know it says next Friday. I guess I should make it clear. It's this coming Friday, May 25th, all right, at the end of the day. Reply to 2 other students' threads. So give a priority to people who do not yet have a response. Sometimes people will be really early and they'll write a post, and then it'll get 8 responses, and then somebody who posted on Wednesday gets 0 responses. Don't. So if you're looking at the forum thread and you did yours early, that's awesome. Make sure that if you notice that everybody else who did theirs early already has a reply or 2 replies, maybe consider holding off and waiting until after Wednesday when everybody has had a chance to do the assignment, so that you can choose someone to respond to that hasn't heard from anyone yet. That usually everybody does a great job regulating themselves, but again, do try to give priority to people who do not yet have a response. It's kind of a unfortunate that maybe sometimes people would get like 8 replies and some other person gets none, and then I mean, I'm thrilled to interact with you, but I hopefully don't have to reply personally to half the threads just to just to give everybody else a chance to reply. So again, try to regulate that yourselves a little bit. Kind of look at the forum. If you and your fellow early birds all reply to somebody already, don't just kind of wait until after the due date on Wednesday. And then maybe after that point, choose someone to respond to. Okay, so for numbers 1 and 2, you are to say if you agree or disagree and explain why you feel that way. So for this one, maybe you really don't feel like communication is a lot of toothpaste for whatever reason. So you can disagree with somebody who thinks that. And again, um, you can also explain, maybe you disagree that you think lunchtime is a great time to have class for whatever reason or another. That's fine. But explain why you feel that way. And then for number 3, compare their diagram to yours and kind of ask, um, and when I say could either of your diagrams be elaborated on, what I really mean is think about that person's diagram and think about things that maybe they could add to them. Okay, give friendly feedback to what could be added or removed. All right, emphasis on friendly. Or you can simply validate their diagram by saying you agree with it, but you have to state your reason for agreeing with it. Okay, um, so that's the assignment. For the first written assignment. That's again related to chapter 1. Um, Hopefully the information I went over in the PowerPoint there for just a couple of minutes also helps you get started if you haven't gotten your book yet. Um, Again, reading chapter 1 should help you out a whole heck of a lot, but at least the PowerPoint I just kind of went over there should at least give you enough information, I think, to get started on that. Okay, so that is one item of our agenda knocked off there. Now the next thing that we are concerned about, let's make sure I'm on script here. Answer discussion prompts, yeah. There we go. It's 2 classmates, isn't it? I changed that for myself. Oop. Okay, so the next thing on your plate is to upload your introductory speech to Blackboard slash YouTube by Thursday. So let's go over that. There are 2 ways I can let you or get you to um, uh, submit an assignment for the course. And one of them is through just straight up going through Blackboard, and the other one involves an intermediary step going to YouTube. So I'll show you briefly how you can do either of those ways. But however, both of those requires you to submit something to Blackboard. So let's go ahead and swing on by then to course content. And if you notice, there's now an assignment under course content that says introductory speech. If you have your introductory speech recorded, make sure you know where that is on your computer, and then go ahead and click on the assignment here. And it says due date Thursday, May 24th, 2018, 11:59 p.m. Okay. Now, if you turn this in after, let's say it's Friday, May 25th, 1 a.m., it is gonna be flagged as late, but I mentally myself will not count it as late. Basically, I'm saying turn it in Thursday night going into Friday morning, and I'm not gonna wig out. Okay, so don't worry or panic if you're one of those people that like to work late at night and um, Blackboard is acting wonky and it just doesn't take your speech until 2:30 in the morning. It's fine. The automated system will say it's late, but nothing really happens. I have to assess a penalty myself. It doesn't do anything by itself. Anyway, so what it'll just click on the link and it brings you this information, and you simply say browse my computer, and you would select where your speech is and upload it, just like any other attaching it to an email. I'm not going to do it because the video that I have is the one that I'm recording, and that would mess things up. But you would just click on Browse My Computer, you would navigate to your speech, and then you would hit the Submit button. Then it can take a while to load. It's not unusual for it to take upwards of 20 minutes, even with a great internet connection. Um, some other things that you should be aware of, maybe I'm using Firefox here, and I would also recommend that if you are encountering difficulties with your browser of choice, that you also use Firefox. One of you also asked me today, just today, or I saw it just today, rather, it could have been yesterday evening, um, about what file format we should use if we're going to use Open Broadcaster. Um, and the reality is that there's three different file types. It's like .flv, which is the Flash video. If you remember those old Flash cartoons on the early 2000s internet, that's the file format for those. You have the .mov, or the .mov, which is the Apple proprietary video file format, and then you have the .mp4. Those are your options on Open Broadcaster. Um, Literally any of them will work. All the computers that have been manufactured pretty much since 2015, including the one that I'll be reviewing your work on, support viewing those file types. So you can upload any of them. That's one reason why I didn't go over it on Open Broadcaster. I felt that whatever file format it has as default is probably the most appropriate one. Um, if you want to make absolutely positively sure that anybody could view the video. And again, this will become relevant later when we actually share our videos with each other. We'll get to that on a different video. I'll actually go through that process about how we're going to create a discussion board just for sharing each other's introductory videos. If you want to make absolutely sure that anyone can watch it on an older computer, I would recommend the .mp4 format if you have the option. The reason why is because it is an older format, so anything Windows or Mac that's been made in the past 15 years can watch a video like that. That .flv and .mov are kind of newer, and may not work on an older machine. But honestly, like I said, it's anything made in the past 10 years will watch any of those three, so it's not that important. But it was a great question, and I appreciate it. But yeah, like I said, .mp4 if you're absolutely confused. Um, Otherwise, I would say just don't worry about it. Just title your video and submit it. Use like you would an email. Okay, so that's the first way. Okay, that's the direct way. Now let's say that Blackboard is having a problem today, and you need to upload it some other way. You have to make sure that it gets to me some other way. One thing you can do is you can use YouTube. And so what you would simply do is you would log into a Google account, and then I already am, of course, logged into my Google account because that's how I'm broadcasting to you all now. But then you would just log into your Google account, navigate to youtube.com, or you go to youtube.com and then log in, whichever floats your boat. And then you click on this little button up here. It says create a video or post. And then you want to say upload a video. And then Select files to upload or drag and drop video files. So all you have to do is, I'm going to go ahead and minimize this a little bit here. And I'm going to get, oh man, all these screens out of the way. Here's my desktop. I drag and drop my video over here. Now this is a live video, so I can't really do it, but I just click and drag it and I let go. And YouTube rarely has problems. So it'll upload for a while and then it'll give you a link. All right, it'll actually show up. Actually, you know what? Let me do that. Let's just see what happens. Let's tempt fate. Okay, boom. It is uploading. And then it says your video will be live at this link. And then you can highlight it, copy it, move back to Blackboard, wherever that is. There it is. And you can just kind of put that in the comment section, copy and paste it, and then hit submit. So that way I have, there's two different ways I can watch your video. Now, if you're one of those folks that is very, wants to make sure that your face is not visible to the public, you would just go over here and make sure that your video is under unlisted. That means it won't show up on any kind of search result or anything. You would have to have this link to view it. Now, if you set it to private, that means that you would have to explicitly share it with me, and that's kind of a lengthy process. Just go ahead and say it's unlisted, and that way the only way someone can see it is if they happen to know this link here. Can I stop this process here? Cancel the upload? I would love to cancel that upload. Excellent. Okay, so that's how those are two separate ways you can upload your assignment, but again, both of them require you to either put the file here or to put the link to the YouTube file on the comment section and then hit submit. That way I can, and I can't really show you this because it'll show you the grade center with everybody's private information on it, but it'll submit in such a way that I always know that your name is associated with it, and when I grade it, it'll be only associated with you. It's just a great way to keep me organized. But there are two ways that you can submit that, so excellent. Just make sure you do hit the submit button here. I'm going to go ahead and try to back out of this. Okay, there we go. We're back to the announcement page. All right, now let's see. What was that last bit here that I had to talk about? Oh, good. Reply to 2 classmates, and I think I've yammered on enough about that. Again, prioritize people who have not gotten a reply yet to their discussion prompt on Wednesday the 23rd. Right, and again, if you're one of those early birds, I would recommend, especially if you already see people replying to another person that's also an early bird, that you wait until after Wednesday, May 23rd to select a person or people to reply to. All right, that way, again, the reason why I have it broken up into 2 parts like that is specifically to try to encourage you not to do it all at once. And that seems to work. Like I said, all of you should hear from at least 2 other classmates, and I can just kind of observe your interaction and give you points. And that's kind of the way I like to do it. So that's the thing. These are the 3 things that you should be working on this week. And again, I guess in the background here, I guess I'll add a 4th item. If you did not get through chapter 1 yet, do please read it. Okay. For a little while, we will be going in sequence through the speech book, but don't read chapter 2 until I tell you to yet. We probably are going, not by probably, I mean, we are going to start skipping around the textbook. Again, this textbook was designed for a 16-week course in mind. We don't have that much time, so I'm kind of going through the textbook's biggest hits, basically. So don't, if you want to go above and beyond, just read the thing from cover to cover, I'm not going to stop you, but don't say I didn't warn you about reading it from cover to cover, because we're not going to go over all of that material. Okay. And that's really all I had planned to talk about tonight. I noticed that I have a good handful of you today. Welcome, welcome. So if anyone has a question, you can go ahead and write it in chat. And if not, we'll adjourn here, and this will be your broadcast/video for Sunday, and I'll see you again on Wednesday at 6. I do want to say, while I'm kind of waiting on people maybe to write in the channel there, that you do not need to worry if you miss one of these broadcasts. This is just kind of an optional thing, I guess you can say, that I'm doing to try to facilitate interaction between you and me. Um, it's you are not required to have an attendance or anything like that for an asynchronous online course. I just thought it'd be nice if I gave you some common times that you could possibly converse with me back and forth without having to wait between emails. So um, that's why I do it this way. I'm not keeping track of who's here and who's not. Um, I do want to remind you that if you miss one of these videos, by miss, I mean you couldn't make it to the live broadcast, that you do watch the video within about a day or so. And I think I do believe I wrote this on our announcements as well. Do try to watch these videos within a day or so of them going live, of me posting the link. That way you don't miss out on relevant information. Um, Speaking of relevant information, again, I'm kind of waiting for someone to type into chat if there is anybody. If I get through this next task and nobody writes, I'll just say goodbye. But here's this week's to-do list. And then I'm just going to send this off to everybody so that even though people might have missed the video, at least they know what they need to do besides watch the video. I should probably edit this actually to say step 0, watch the video. Don't forget to watch the video. Video from Sunday. Was it May 20th? Yes, excellent. We're not going to send the revised thing out to everyone. That's just spam right there. Okay. That doesn't seem like anybody has any questions in the chat. So again, if you do have questions and you want to ask me over email, I'm happy to interact with you that way. I've also logged into Skype the vast majority of the time as well. So if you want to add me on Skype, again, that information is on the syllabus. And you can do so, and I'd be happy to chat with you either through text or through video chat on Skype as well. Yep, that's all I have for you tonight. I hope you had a great weekend, and I hope you have a great start to the week on Monday. I'm looking forward to seeing your ideas, especially on that second item of the SMCR model discussion. And I'm very interested in seeing your introductory videos and seeing your faces, and seeing what kind of people I have in my class. It's always fun. Um, so with that thought and happy and cheery thought, I will let you go for the evening. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great one.